I'm Grant Polworth, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Talisman Talks. It's about high-performance sport and business colliding. We're really proud to bring you Talisman Talks. We want to have candid, open conversations with champions of industry and sport alike. We want to look behind the medals and the championships. We want to look behind the capital successes and the share price and explore some incredible individual success stories firsthand. And over the coming months, we'll bring these to you, these unique insights and access in a relaxed and open format. There's some pretty serious humility on this call, so it's no doubt fallen to me to make some introductions. Joining me on the call this afternoon are my business partners at Talisman People. Nathan Sharp, the former Wallaby captain, one of the most decorated rugby players in Australian history, playing over 100 tests for the country with the Queensland Reds and the Western Force in a career spanning over 15 years. And Sharpie's now a partner in Talisman, following a successful career in both the mining and media sectors. Beau Hansen is a four-time Australian Olympian and three-time Olympic medalist in rowing. And since stepping away from the boat, Beau's had a 20-plus year career in business and sport, delivering leadership, management, coach development in, I think, over 40 sports now, Beau, around the globe with athlete assessments. And Beau is certainly in demand, and he's spoken at over 100 international sporting conferences and assisted over 100,000 individuals and professional sporting organisations the world over. But we've got an incredible lineup today. We're really excited for this first episode of Talisman Talks. We're going to come out of the blocks with an absolute bang, and two of the individuals that we've reached to join us today at the absolute pinnacle of their professional pursuits. Talk about champions of industry and sport. I want to welcome Jean van der Westhuyzen and Bill Beament. And the theme of today's episode is deciding to win, and that should become abundantly clear as we go through this talk today as to why. Now, Jean has been in a kayak, as I understand it, Jean, since the age of 10, winning junior world championship medals for South Africa and becoming the youngest South African to win a world championship medal at the age of 15 before emigrating to Australia in 2018 to pursue his Olympic dream. Jean was in the Australian boat in the K1000 double final at the Tokyo Olympics, crossing the line in a nail-biting finish that we've all as a country saw and held our breath to win gold ahead of the Germans and the Czech Republic, with only, I think, 0.3 of a second separating the boats. And in doing so, he and his partner, Tom, won the first gold medal for Australia in the event in the storied 85-year history. Bill is a proud WA School of Mines mining engineer and spent his entire career in the mining industry. He's previously held the formative roles of operations manager at Beament, general manager at Eloise Copper Mine. Most recently, Bill was the managing director and executive chairman of Northern Star Resources, after which a merge with Saracen Mineral Holdings in February of this year progressed the combined entity towards producing 2 million ounces of gold per annum. And the company's become the second highest producer of gold and second highest market cap of companies in Australia in that space, with over 3,500 staff and contractors combined. And along the journey, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but Bill was named 2016 AFR CEO of the Year. However, now Bill is the executive chairman of Develop Global Limited, which was formerly VentureX Resources, as late as last week, I think, Bill. And that's a fast-moving base metals business focused on transition metals and copper and zinc, and an underground specialist mining services business. But most importantly, Bill's a great bloke to have a beer with, and I've enjoyed getting to know you on the recent trips to WA when we've been allowed into the state, Bill, even though you remind me of what an inferior university I did indeed attend. So welcome to you both. Just wanted to give a bit of an intro for everyone with context, and thanks for joining us on Talisman Talks. I might, at that, pass the ball over to Beau to open up.
Yeah, so let's chat about one of the key things we talk about at Talisman People is just this concept of what a win looks like. And, for both of you at a younger age, at what stage did you start to really try and work out, well, what was winning going to look like to you in the context of your chosen professional and sporting careers?
Sure. I think for me, what it looked like was I always kind of looked up to role models who sacrificed a lot and were just kind of really tunneled into the one thing that they were focused on and the one thing they really wanted to achieve or do. So for me, it was, when I started getting serious about the sport and wanting to go to the Olympics and compete at a high level, I knew that there were just going to be certain sacrifices involved, and I never really pictured myself as a very talented athlete. I'm not exceptionally tall or heavy or strong. Like I'm not the strongest guy in the gym, but for me, it was about sacrificing as much as I could, working as hard as I could, and for me, at maybe 14 years old, when I decided that the Olympics was something I really wanted to attend and do well at. I wanted to sacrifice as much as I needed to get a good result there. And for me, that looked like, not going to parties at a young age, not going out on the weekends, um, yeah, not eating clean food, getting good night's sleep. And when you're a teenager, all those things are really, really normal. It's like every day, every weekend. That's just like your lifestyle, I guess. So for me, from about 14 years old, I decided that I didn't want to do those things, and my weeks just pretty much involved training. From about 14, 15, I wanted to do about 12 sessions a week, and I wanted to try get the most out of myself and make sure that I put myself in the best possible position to try qualify for an Olympic game. So yeah, for me, I think it was more just it was mostly about sacrifice. But in saying that, I loved it. I absolutely loved what I did every single day. So for me, it was great to be able to make the sacrifices.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about the word sacrifice, right? Is that it takes a lot of, whether you call it sacrifice or perhaps something else, just huge amount of effort to get what you really want, whatever that win is going to look like to you, right? But as you said there, Jean, if you're loving what you do, is it really a sacrifice, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? It's not like you love it every single day. I mean, it
Yeah.
sucks. A lot of the time, it actually sucks. But I think if you're actually really passionate about something, you're going to sacrifice what you need to. And sure, there were crappy days. I didn't want to do it. Wanted to maybe sleep in. Maybe I wanted to go out with my friends and have a bit of a party or whatnot. But I think for me, the passion was always just so big, and my motivation to, well, I wouldn't say motivation. But just my desire to compete at Olympic Games. I was just so passionate about it, and I really, really wanted to be there. So, um, yeah, it was hard, but at the same time, it was easy.
Yeah. And was it at that age, that those younger years, were you dreaming of a gold medal, or was the Olympics enough?
I think absolutely. I like to believe that everybody that goes to an Olympic Games wants to win gold. I think that's the whole point of an Olympics is you go there and you compete for the top step. Otherwise, it would just be a participation thing, right? When you can all get a participation medal and leave. So for me, it was more about just checking the boxes. I wanted to make a national team. I wanted to first win a world championship medal, and then once I was in the Olympics, I wanted to dream on to try get an Olympic gold. And yeah, so I think I always wanted to try get the gold medal. And you don't actually, I think, truly believe it once you actually achieve it. So for me, it was actually a massive shock to get the gold. Of course, you train every day, you train hard, you put yourself in a position to maybe win one. But for it to all come together on the day, it's always a surprise.
Yeah, we might come back to this at some stage, but while we're on the topic, it might be good to just quickly chat about it now before we hear from Bill. But when I watched your race, it looked like two guys at the start of that race. I know you made the decision early on that you wanted to get to this level and win a gold medal. And as you say, a lot of athletes do that, but it still takes another decision point at the beginning of that race, and the way that you raced it, that no one else had to choose for you to win, right? No one else had to give you the sense of belief that you could just, for some reason, you guys literally just grabbed that race and absolutely decided at that moment it was going to be yours. So how did that happen? Was there a specific discussion, or what were your thoughts around that?
Honestly, I think it was probably the first 2 days of racing where we didn't get good results that kind of inspired us to race
Yeah.
like that. What a lot of people don't know is that we actually raced in the K1s as well, and we got really, really disappointing results. It was a very, very poor performance from the both of us. Tommy got seventh in the K1, and I got 11th. So that was really disappointing for both of us. And leading into the next event, we kind of just turned around and we were like, man, we know what we're capable of. Let's go out there and just take the race to the guys. Let's go out hard and try to stay in front and actually put ourselves in a position to win the thing. And when you're 22 years old, you're not supposed to win an Olympic gold medal in our sport at that age. And it was kind of just our coaches turned around and said, hey, don't worry about all these big names next to you, all these guys that have been to Olympics, won a world championship, won Olympic medals, blah, 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 blah. You guys go out there, take the race to them, and we believe you can win this thing. And for myself and Tom, that was like super inspiring. And I don't think we're two guys that get overly nervous about racing and what the result's going to be. We just want to go out and race really damn hard.
Yeah.
And we were just stoked that we could do that in the final or in the next 2 days racing, essentially. And pretty much that's really just it. We wanted to go out there, race hard, get out in front, stay in front, and try to take the race to the rest of the guys.
Yeah, you make it sound simple. Not easy though, right? So,
No.
all right. So let's hear from Bill. So, you know, a lot of what you spoke about there, Jean. I mean, Bill, can you relate to some of those analogies, but in a business context?
Oh, look, absolutely. I've said for a number of years that being successful, business is very, very parallel with sport. Obviously, we don't have to go to the gym and do all the exercise and all the training, so I'm benefiting from that because I do enjoy having a beer and a wine. But I look at a lot. I study a lot of people in business and stuff, and I also keep close to sport because I think there's a lot of similarities and a lot of things you can learn from both sectors that you can translate into what you do. And you know, and you still got to have everything like John said is like he's not an overnight success, and that's what I hate about a bit of that tall poppy syndrome is like, yes, the Olympics come around every 4 years, but you've just heard the story of how long ago you started that journey and yet you win a gold medal and it's like you're an overnight success. And it's no different in business as well. As like there's no such thing as an overnight success person in business. All the successful people I've come across in that area have spent and it's like decades. It's not in there. It's not 5 years. It's normally a 20-year journey before you actually have success. And I was very fortunate. I had a goal of where I wanted to go in my career, and it's funny. Like I achieved a lot, obviously, in Northern Star and a few vehicles prior, but I'm only now at 46 doing exactly what I wanted to do in my career, and it's only just started in the last 2 months. So, but I had to do all that experience and all that journey of getting, operation. I worked underground for 4 years as an operator, even though I was a graduate, mining engineer, graduated mining engineer. But I wanted to get that experience hands-on with, running people, running blue-collar workers, so that when I got into management, I had that skill set and a lot of time out in sites. I did FIFO, I did residential in mining communities for a good 10 plus years, and then I got in the upper echelons of management. So no overnight success. It was like a 20-year journey, or 15, 20-year journey to get into the position at Northern Star and then be able to execute a business plan that I come up with, and we created a company that's been the best performing company on the ASX for the past decade of any sector. So it's been very rewarding. But again, you had to do a lot of training and experience to get to that point, and I can't emphasise that. Business is so parallel. I love my sport, not at you guys level, but I played footy last night, so I'm a little bit sore this morning. First game of the season, so AFL 9. But anyway, I kicked 3 goals, but anyway, I still did my part.
So have you got the purple shorts on, mate, or are you running free still?
No, mate, no. We don't follow purple over here. There's only one team in town. That's the West Coast. But no, it's fair to say that I've got my new company colours as a major sponsor of my team, and I recruit pretty well, Sharpie. I have to admit, I've got a few ex-AFL players in my team, so as full forward, I get delivered the ball where I want it.
Would you say you're a little bit like Tony Lockett, just staying in the goal square, waiting for the ball to come to you, mate? Is that the way you play these days?
Oh, I play deep, mate, and then I run fast.
Yeah. Mate,
Bill, I'm going to have to pull you up
on
on that one. I'm just going to have to pull you up on that one as well, Bill. Casting that net that you don't play sport as well as the rest of them, mate. Just remember, I'm on the call here, so you're talking to another, fellow challenged sportsman. But just on that willingness to execute the fundamentals better than anyone else, I think that's a really interesting theme that we often talk about, and that mastery of the system. And I understand that, those 4 years that you worked underground, that people perhaps a little bit surprised to know that you largely kept from anyone the knowledge that you were a mining engineer, because you wanted to learn the fundamentals and I guess master the system, so that one day you absolutely understand your business and the business that you take forward.
Yeah, and I also didn't want any special treatment. I wanted to actually earn my earn my progression through the underground system. So, you know, you get underground, you start out as a shit kicker and you're doing the worst jobs, and eventually, you know, you do X, Y, Z, you do charge up, then you're on a loader, and then you're on the drills. And I didn't want to get through that progression because I was a mining engineer doing their graduate time. I wanted to earn it and have the respect of everyone around me. So that was the main point. And literally there was only one person in that organisation knew I was a mining engineer. And everyone looked at me sideways when I said, oh, I'm leaving the jumbo, which is the highest paid job in an underground mine. And they said, oh, why? And I said, well, because I went to university and studied, and I want to go a different path now. But yeah, that was a really important part of my journey. And also, I knew that those blue collar workers, in particular, when I got into management, they'd respect me a lot more. And it's fair to say that you know, you have your moments when you first get into those management roles at a young age. But it's fair to say that, you know, I got that respect pretty quickly from the previous people I worked with, and you know, a lot of those people still work for me. Well, in the old shop, I put a lot of those people in there that have been with me for 25 years. And in the new vehicle, I'm sure that in due course that there'll be a lot of people that come and join me that, you know, have worked with me a long period of time, and that's just the respect that you build up from a very early age.
Bill, when you reflect on that, I mean, Bo mentioned it before to Jean. You know, I was going to ask you, was it around when you sort of acquired Paulson's that you decided to win? But hearing you talk, it's almost as though you decided to win as soon as you graduated because you had that grand master plan in your head. You knew where you were going to go. Is that how far back, when you look back at your career, when you kind of just picked it up and said, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it?
Mate, I'm just one of those super competitive individuals. Like, I literally, I'm as soon as you step over that white line, it's game day, you know. So I've always been like that, and yeah, never got to the upper echelons of sport, but it's definitely played a lot of rep sport in my earlier years and that sort of stuff. And I've always been that, you know. Yeah, I like winning. I don't like losing, but I'm a gracious loser. I'm never negative on that. But I don't play dirty. You got to play by the rules. But I've always taken that into life. Is you create your own luck. There's no such thing as a lucky person. Create your own luck, and you seize the opportunities. So yeah, it's like all the way through my career, I've put myself into a position to get the ball or get the job promotion or have the opportunity. Like, you know, I used to, in Beament when I was a junior burger, I used to walk past the MD's office, the owner, you know, 3 times a day just to make sure he saw me and knew who I was, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. And just little things like that if you don't put yourself in the zone, you never get an opportunity. And it's like you guys would know that extra bloody half a metre is the difference between winning a gold and a silver.
Yeah, sure is.
You both achieved a lot at a young age. Jean, the role of coaches in your life and in your success?
Yeah, huge, massive. Solid team is going to get a solid result. No chance I was going to win a gold medal without a really cracker team behind us. Obviously, being 22 years old, both myself and Tom, we're really young, don't really know what the Olympics hold, don't understand the pressure that's behind it, what type of performance is needed to get a gold. So to have that guidance from a coach is really, really, really important. So no, absolutely, they play a massive role.
What would you say there, Jean, like when you think about the qualities of a really great coach, and you obviously have had great coaches, what are those key qualities would you suggest?
I think the first one that comes to mind is complete honesty. I mean, if you're not doing the right thing, or you stuffing around, or you're not doing things properly, you want someone to tell you that what the hell's going on, you know, and to pull you back in line. I think what I kind of notice at the moment is there's a lot of coaches that, you know, don't want to say this, don't want to say that, or kind of tippy-toe around athletes. I don't think that's good. I think an honest coach, but also a fair coach who can listen to you, understand you, know where you're coming from. So it's really just that really open, honest, and trustful relationship that I think is going to get the best result. Well, at least for me. I think everybody works differently, but for me, that's what I really felt worked really well. I wanted a guy that's going to tell me how it is and not cover anything up. So I think a guy that has those qualities is super important.
Yeah. Who is that for you then?
His name's Jimmy Owens and David Smith. So they form quite a nice combination. Jimmy's been to he went to his first games in 2008 as a coach, and then Smithy went to 2 games himself, Beijing and London, and they just form such a great mix. Jimmy's been to 4 games now, and he's got 3 gold. He hasn't been to a game, he's not got a medal, so he just has a wealth of experience. And then you got Smithy, who's the assistant coach, and he got last place at his first games and first place at his last game. So he's been at both ends of failing really badly and succeeding really well. So they form a good mix. They're good, strong characters, and great people too, most importantly.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things about being a coach is that it really is a 24/7 job, right? It's not just about keeping athletes in line or aligned. It's just the concept that coaches are constantly thinking about your performance. Did the coaches suggest anything that was you considered a little left field in ways to try and make you guys better?
Oh, I don't think, sometimes when you're in a hard training block and you're suffering and it's really, really tough. Mentally, maybe you don't want to do this, or you think that's just too much. And that's where I love our coaches. Where you look back on those moments and you just think, oh, thank goodness we have them. And they turn around and they're like, no, you're going to do that. Or no, you're not going to do this. We're going to make you do that. And they just kind of push us or direct us in the right place. And at the time, that might seem a bit pushy, a bit harsh, maybe a bit too honest if they really give a fair judgment of how you're acting or behaving. So no, I don't think anything's left field, not at all. And if there ever is anything, I can openly tell them or have a discussion with them and say, hey, that's offsides. Don't think that's right. That was a bit too much. But I haven't really come across a situation where that's been the case. It's been pretty solid.
Yeah, well, I mean, that suggests that there's an enormous amount of trust there, right? I mean, this is the whole concept, is that, the best coaches are similar to the best leaders in business, although the coaches and the leadership piece is a little bit different, but they're points that they borrow from each other. And, your coaches are able to create a really safe, psychologically safe, physically safe environment. But it's still going to be challenging. Like, there's no comfort zone area when you're trying to win a gold medal, would you say?
No, definitely not. I think everybody looks at a gold medal and go, wow, this is so amazing. It's great. But you have to go through a hell of a lot to get there. We've had massive blow-ups in the shed, big arguments. But at the end of the day, we walk out, we shake hands, and we both just as competitive as each other. I think my coach wants to win gold just as much as I do, and I love that. I absolutely love and appreciate it so much, and it's great knowing that your coaches back you and they want it really, really bad. Because if you have a coach that's just rocking up there and ticking the box and whatnot, and then leaving at 5 o'clock, you're not going to be super inspired, right? When you're putting in the early hours and the hours after 5, you want the coach to be doing the same thing. And when they're willing to do that so freely, you're stoked.
That's a great example for you, right? That ultimately can provide a real critical role model type, essentially model for you to follow, right?
Absolutely. I think, well, first off, it has to come within yourself. Nobody should be asking you to be driven or asking you to want something. It's got to be yourself that actually really wants it first and foremost. And I think it's just a massive bonus to have somebody in your team that wants it just as much as you. It's great. So everybody has to be on the same page.
Yeah. So Bill, did you have coaches back then, or did you call them something else? But did you have someone who you could sort of look to for guidance and advice?
Yeah, look, you obviously don't really have coaches in business, but what you do have is mentors, and I'm a huge fan of mentoring, and it's different in business because as you grow in business, you outgrow mentors, because people it's a bit different in sport. You might have you might change the coach because you haven't won a gold medal, but in business, as you elevate, like I went from a $1 million market cap company to a 16 bill. So even on that journey, and prior to that, I've always had mentors, and I'm a massive advocate of mentoring in business, and everyone, regardless of what level, should have a mentor that's relevant for them. And I've gone through a number. I've outgrown a number of them, but one thing you never do is you never forget your mentors along the way, because they're the ones that actually keep your feet on the ground. My first proper mentor, first proper mentor was Queenslander that worked in Mount Isa mines and then come over to when Campbell got built and was a legend miner and created his own contracting business, small scale, but then went back in and worked for a company that I work with. And he saw talent in me and put me through the system and gave me my first proper crack into senior management, just saw potential. And he's still a mentor now. He's the one that has, and he's taught me a lot of stuff along the way. And I look at how people are these days, and because this guy's nickname's Mongrel Miller, and he used to be a mongrel. He's pretty big lad. Loved his rugby and used to play it and basketball. Super competitive guy, but he taught me even things like people are changing, Bill. Like we can't talk to workforces like we did in the 80s or the 70s, and it's like now you can't talk to workforces like the 90s or the 2000s. And this new generation coming through is completely different. And you're seeing it in the sporting arena, and there's a couple of high-profile things at the moment. Whereas you've got to connect with the players, all that, like the coaches. It's a different world. This generation coming through, I wouldn't say more sensitive, but they're different, and you need to evolve with that. And that's one thing my mentors, and in particular Ken, taught me early on, is if you don't evolve as a professional, you're dead. And I've had to reinvent myself in Northern Star probably 4 times along that. And if I didn't, then I'm sure the board would have turfed me out and I would never have ended up being exec chair and yada, yada, yada. And it's even like now I'm reinventing, myself to a degree and the thematic I'm going into. But yeah, that mentoring is super important. And I'm always looking at the next mentor, personally. And I'm going through that transition now of who my next mentors are. And it's, they're getting a little bit harder to find on some parts, but yeah, I just think that's super important. And they're the people that give you that guidance. And, like I work hard, play hard, and I'm aggressive at business, but I'm also conservative. But, you do have your bad days, like John was saying. It's not all beer and Skittles and that sort of stuff. You do have the days where you want to just, spit the chewy, and I get them every now and again. But those mentors are the ones that go, just cool down, sleep on it overnight, and let's regroup in the morning. And if you're feeling the same then, and I've been very fortunate in my past non-exec chair of Northern Star, the founder of Northern Star, Chris Rowe, was very, very good for me. That, the grey head factor that was always took the late night phone call, and when you're upset and you're a bit down and that sort of stuff, and then, sort of giving you that advice that it'll be all right, let's regroup in the morning. So, again, a lot of parallels there, but I can't emphasize enough that, and I teach all young kids this is keep doing the mentoring stuff and reach out. I've reached out, all my mentors, I've actually reached out and asked them, like they haven't come to me. I'm just like, and I think people get a kick out of that as well. When you're at a certain level, it's like, it's quite flattering and yada, yada, yada. So I've never been knocked back by anyone.
Yeah. So it's for you, it's just simply just picking up the phone and asking the question. Is it just?
Sorry, Bo, I missed that.
Well, to acquire a mentor. I mean, sometimes people are challenged to actually do that, but I think you make a really good point, is that there are a lot of people that want to help, right? And they wait to be asked the question, right? We don't impose ourselves on others, and it doesn't really work well when a mentor or a coach is imposed on an athlete either.
Yeah, look, definitely, and I think males network really well and do that well, and I keep saying to a lot of female people in the industry is reach out and get networks. Like it's something that I think that side of society is not as in tune as the males, and I just think that's a huge. And it's not about getting a job because you got a network. It's just you surround yourself and be connected with high performing people or entrepreneurial people. It rubs off. There's no, all my mates are entrepreneurial. It's just, and it rubs off. And success breeds success. Can't emphasize that enough. You guys would know that in sport. And you win a gold medal. I'm sure John wants to in 4 years' time win another one, and maybe a couple. So it's I think that's very, very important.
Bill, I was going to ask you in sport, and this is for you as well, John, because sporting careers are quite compressed. It doesn't go quite as long as a business degree. Obviously, you're cramming a lot more in. I reflect on mentors when I was coming through. Have you guys noticed, John, for yourself, at some stage, and Bill as well in business, you transition from being a mentee to a mentor, and you've sort of got a mentor that looks after you, but you're starting to coach people coming through as well as you get experience. John, have you found that yet, or are you still probably at that age where you're just ripping and busting to win gold medals?
Oh, to be honest, I don't really think I've really had the opportunity to mentor anyone because I'm only 22, so I'm still really young. Obviously, I get a couple messages from really young kids, maybe asking for a couple pointers or something like that. But for me, it's just like I still feel like I'm being mentored. So I think I'd like to hope that that stage will come when I can give back to somebody because I've been given so much and there've been so many influential people in my career so far. So absolutely, I'd love to give back to the sport. But for now, no, I'm kind of just really dialed into the next games and yeah, appreciating the support my mentors are giving me right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Billy, what about you?
Yeah, look, absolutely. You do transition to you're doing more mentoring as you get older, of course. But no, I've always had this view that you always have to put back in. I've been very fortunate. I've got a lot out of my career in certain areas. I did really well out of my university degree, so I put a lot back into the School of Mines, and that's both time, effort, and financial as well. And I'm always going back to the uni. We diggers and dealers every year, as you know, Sharpie. The Tuesday night is we just all our graduates we just lock ourselves away in the student rooms for the night and don't go to anything else. And put a lot of time and effort in there. And my previous employer, I think I was up to about 110 graduates on the books at any one point of time, and that was growing every year. So I'm a huge advocate of putting stuff back and also just giving people the opportunities. Like I've convinced a number of my friends and work colleagues over the years to go and give them have their own crack. Like my main business partner, Jeff Muir, in a diamond drilling business, has created one of Australia's best drilling businesses. And like it was, I kept pushing him to be entrepreneurial, and now he's got an unbelievable business, and the rest is history. But I've done that with a number of friends, like just give them the nudge, and like Shane McClay of Entech was one of the best mining consultancy businesses in Australia now, and when he lost his job, I just said, come around, have a coffee with me straight away, and what are you going to do next? And pushed him in, consultancy business, and like I say, the rest is history. So, yeah, I think you have a lot to put back if you've been successful, and I think you have a duty to do that as well, and especially for the next generation coming through. And you can't own every house in the street, so I think you can. There's more than enough cake to share with everyone, but I like helping people out, and my kick of the last probably 6-7 years in Northern Star was actually just watching the team come through, and just being effectively a coach. I wasn't a captain; I was really just coach then, and Stewie and the rest of the team in there were the players, and it was just fantastic to watch everyone come through that system and succeed and just kick goal after goal after goal, and we probably the only thing we never did is we never really celebrated the success enough. It's probably like John, you celebrate for maybe a week or two after, and unfortunately these guys never got the ticker tape parade because of the quarantining type stuff. But like it's sort of it's now 4 years before the next one. So I think we don't celebrate success enough in this country.
Bill, one of the things that you just touched on there, and it's actually a good segue into team membership and the team around you is, when we've talked in the past, you've spoken that there's no real special sauce. It's about getting the culture right, giving people the resources and setting them up for success. What are the qualities you look for in team members around you and the importance that they play?
Yeah, absolutely. You're dead right. I wasn't the smartest person coming through school. Like I think half the people got a scholarship going through the School of Mines. I wasn't one of them. I didn't have the marks to get in there, but I look at work ethic. I think it's hugely important, and like John said, that extra time where you don't want to get up, at 4 a.m. to go and do your training. Like work ethic's the same. It's the people that are actually sitting at their desk or doing that extra yard, underground or whatever in business. So for me, work ethic is number one, and my dad taught me that at a very early age. I think loyalty is huge, and I think that's lost a lot in the last few years. But the high performing talent that I come across have that loyalty. There's a few parts of the generation that don't. And intelligence is probably the third or fourth thing down the list. But I just think work ethic, loyalty, and passion is probably really important for me. And you can't be successful. And I used to play a lot of individual sports. I was very good at tennis, but I haven't played tennis for 25 years now because I actually like team sports. Team sports to me is so much more fun. You get to share your success with your coaches and the teammates, and to me and as you get older and you're not as fit as you can be, and you can have a few beers after it, and that's half the fun, like we did last night. But you can't have success without great team, and I've been very fortunate. Is all through my career, I knew I was in this for a long game and a long journey. So I've always picked the youngest and brightest, and put them into my fold and nurtured them. And even Northern Stars, I left at 46 years of age, and I was the oldest one in the management team in the upper senior ranks. So I just think that that's super important. But you can't do it without constructing a team and nurturing that team and managing expectations, especially in business. Like, a lot of people are aspirational, want to be the MD, but you can only have one MD. You can have only one COO, all that sort of stuff. So you do have to manage a team environment and expectations, and you might palm them out into a different part of the business for 2 years, build up the skill set, bring them back and shuffle a few things. That's something that I've done my whole career, is put teams together. And that's probably my success, is being able to put quality teams, keep them motivated, have that honest change room. I take the honest change room view. There's no grey, it's black and white, and I think that's so important in any area of life. You've got to be black and white. So so look, I couldn't have built what I just did without that team, and you're only as good as the people underneath you. That's and Sharpie, you would know that, mate. You wouldn't be getting the line outs if you didn't have some good front rowers and bloody people lifting you up and getting you that height.
Mate, I could only jump about 3 inches, mate. They just used to grunt me off the ground, thankfully. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
And John, in terms of team membership and qualities, obviously with yourself and Tom, and I'm not the right one to ask this question, but Bo speaks about this, this, I guess, synergy that exists between in a kayak or in a boat, and how do you where 1 + 1 = more than 2? Like, what team qualities do you look for in a teammate in a kayak?
I think it's similar to what I was saying about the coaches. Your teammate kind of has to have the same qualities as yourself. Obviously, you're going to be different. It's two different people. You're never going to get a guy that's exactly like you. Everyone comes from a different background, has different thought processes. Maybe they do things differently, but it's appreciating where they are different, and actually just using their strengths. Like, I have a certain skill set where I'm maybe better than Tom, and Tom has a skill set where he's better than me, and it's about bringing that together and making it work. A team boat's really hard to get right on any given day, so you really kind of got to understand each other, where your strengths and weaknesses lie, and how you can kind of put it all together to make it work and make it work really well. So I think in terms of qualities, it's just that honesty, trust. That really, like, I keep on saying it, but for me, that's super important. You can't be just tiptoeing around each other. You got to have honest feedback, honest conversations, real conversations, to make something go well. Because if you're not going to address certain things, you're just going to let them sit in the background, and they're going to tick away and slowly eat at you. So it's about putting everything on the table, assessing what's good, assessing what's bad, and then start to build something special, hopefully.
Yeah, it's one of the things we talk a lot about. I think about some of the better crews that I've been part of, as well as the ability to have an honest conversation is just fundamental. And we talk about some teams, and I think a lot of people are just naturally geared towards harmony, which is understandable. Like, a lot of people are really relationship oriented, but the more that we can develop those strengths of the relationship. So I'm sort of keen to know, how do you get to that point? So for yourself, Bill and Jean, how do you develop your teams? Because we know it's not just a matter of, yes, we can try and recruit the right people, right? But ultimately, once they get there, they're going to need some help along the way to shape them and be really strategic about the type of qualities that we want to live. Either you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, look, in business, it's obviously sometimes you don't get to pick your teammates. You inherit people, but I'm very patient with people in business. Like I'm aggressive and build things quick, but I will take the extra time to recruit the right people. And it's people I've worked with in before, or it's people that I trust that have got, worked with someone else. And, like my old mentor that I mentioned before, he gave me a rule years ago. He goes, Bill, no one ever gets 3 ticks out of 3 ticks when you ref check anyone. He goes, there's always a black mark. Someone doesn't like someone. But, if you ring up 5 people and they've given majority of 3 ticks, then you're there. But you only ring up the 5 people that you trust and respect that you've worked with if it's an unknown. And I've taken that view all through my career with people. But I've also, the bulk of the people that have worked with me are people I've brought through the system. Again, going back to nurturing people, being patient and taking them through the system and the journey, and having those honest discussions. And I think, you've got to pat people on the back, and we do that a lot more these days, but we also have to kick them in the arse as well. And I think we don't do that a lot in society. So, I compliment and pump people up, but I also will kick them in the butt when they need that as well. And I just think, nurturing that team, building it up, putting their time and effort, and just constant communication. That's the way I've worked with any of my management teams and my board, because obviously you have a board as a public listed company. It's just constant communication, like just picking up the phone, having coffee, and just telling people what you're up to and what you're up to and how you're going. I think that's the part. If everyone knows what's happening in the business, then it just makes life a lot easier. I never want my board to walk into my head office and go to some of my senior management or executives and say, what's happening in the business, and then tell a different story than what I'm telling. So I've never had that happen, but that just comes back to that, just open and honest and constant communication.
Bill, there was a time at Northern Star where I think you were on a massive growth trajectory and almost acquiring a mine a month. And I think some of the pundits out there were sort of, alluding to the fact that perhaps you're biting off more than you can chew. And obviously you're inheriting, a lot of workforce, a lot of different teams. How do you go about creating that alignment and that, I guess, one vision toward the Northern Star, trajectory and passion that you had for the business? How do you create that?
We went from basically 200 employees and contractors in our business to 2,500 in 6 months. It was like everyone, there was a lot of Chicken Little going around the industry, and it was funny because people didn't know me really corporately. They didn't know my operational background, and I had a lot of people work for me, manage large teams. And I do have a view in business and life is you sink or swim, bite off more you can chew. I'm one of those people, you get an opportunity, grab the bloody thing with both arms and just keep swimming or keep doing whatever you do. Like I just never sit idle. I just think, those people that sit idle and don't take chances and risks in life, they end up being in the bottom of the pack. But like for me, when we did that massive growth spurt, it was just presence. Like it was just getting out onto the mine sites and just talking to everyone, whether it was a town hall meeting in front of 50 crew members or walking around the processing facility or the store or whatever, just actually seeing people in their own environment. And that's a critical thing in business is you don't get people come to your office, go to their work environment, go where they're comfortable, go where they'll open up and say what they need to say. It's like, you're going to get your honest feedback and honest discussion then. So for me, it was, myself and Stu and all my other key management, we spent a lot of time out on the mine sites when we did that. When I bought my first mine and I was the only employee of the company, I was basically on site every week as MD. It was just, just actually meeting the people and getting people to believe the vision and believe what we're doing. And you can't sort of, discount, just boots on ground. That's how we did it, boots on ground. And because everyone's scared, everyone's nervous when a new coach comes in or a new owner or something like that. But if you're actually there and you're answering the questions and listening to the feedback and all that sort of stuff, people turn really quickly. And I reckon I do a lot of work on business chains and I bought 12 mines now over the journey, and you get 6 months to make changes when you buy effectively inherit a workforce. And if you don't make those changes in the 6 months, then you will revert back to what it was. So you have to have boots on ground and really get in there and listen and learn, and then you can apply your craft and start enacting changes.
All right. So let's go to the next question, right? Shall we?
Yeah, I guess one of the questions that we're all really interested in is the role of failure in the journey for both of you. And John, you touched on earlier, the racing before that K2, final and the disappointment that both you and Tom had, and that was just one, I guess, example of failure. But resilience, failure. How do you frame it? What role has it had on your career to date, and how important has it been in shaping the results that you've achieved?
Oh, huge. Failure has been a massive part of all the successes I've had. It's a cliche thing to say, but I think I don't even know who says it, but it's you essentially fail your way to success. Because all of my best learnings have come from my failures. To point one out, in 2015 was my last year as a junior. I was injured the year before, and I really wanted to go back and win the world championship again. And I ended up getting about 5th place in both events, and it was so disappointing. Maybe 5th place isn't so bad when you think about it, but for me, it was really, really bad. It was super disappointing, and I remember that terrible feeling, and I remember how much pressure I placed on myself to win the thing, and I do still put pressure on myself to go out and win a race, but never ever did I want to put that amount of pressure on myself to go out and win. I did the sport because I loved it. I was passionate about it. I trained hard, and I should have been accepting of whatever result I got on the day. And ever since then, my mindset towards racing has changed, and it's not like I've just had good results since then. I've had some really bad results. I've had some shocking races, but overall, I've been a lot more consistent in my performances, and I take failure on board now. I'm very welcoming towards it, I suppose, because I understand what it is. I understand that there's lessons to be learned out of it, and I went into the games prepared to win or fail. Like I wasn't scared of failure. I knew that was a possible outcome, but I was prepared to take the risk to go out there and kind of race a bit of a risky race, I suppose. And with that came the option of failure, I guess. And really,
Why was that race risky? Why was that race risky, if you don't mind me asking?
So going out at that type of pace, there's a really high risk that you can actually just die in the last 150, 200 meters. The guys can just come past you, and you'll be left in the limelight, left out of the limelight, I guess. So it's quite rare that you go out that hard and you actually manage to hold on. But for us, we thought our strength really lied in that middle piece, and we knew our conditioning was good enough for a strong finish. So you just wanted to go and put ourselves out there. But yeah, but as you said, failure is massive. It's huge. And I'm sure I'll have more failures in my career, no doubt about it. But I'm willing to take those on board, learn from them, and hopefully get better.
I think one of the key things you said there, because I can certainly relate to wanting to win and racing strategies which were going to give us the best opportunity to win. And then I remember a world championship, absolutely being in that position and ending up coming 4th, and what you said about being prepared to either win a gold medal or completely fail, that's what was Bill talking about too. It's either black or white, isn't it? It's sport where you're either winning or you're losing. And
I think what a lot of people get caught up on is that they are so worried about failing that they can't even concentrate on winning the thing. Your main objective is to win the thing. You shouldn't be worried about what might happen or if this goes wrong, blah, blah, blah. You should go out there and try win the thing, right? And accept that failure is an outcome. And that's really it. I think a lot of people get super, super nervous, super worried because they're worried about that they might fail, not meet their own expectations, and 2, they might not meet everybody else's expectation of them as well. Which that's a personal thing. I think any athlete needs to kind of overcome and accept that you can't really worry about what the outcome is going to be. You can only worry on yourself, what you're doing, and what you're capable of.
Yeah, I mean that's the challenge. Sorry, mate. At the Olympics, is that's what makes it so unique. Is that well, the next one is in 3 years, but they come around at once every 4 years, and it's deciding to absolutely make the most of it, and wherever your cards lie at the end of that is where they are, right? I mean, that's really inspiring to even think that way. I think, Bill, can you draw any parallels to that concept as well?
Oh, look, massive. I'm with John. Is you can't be afraid to fail, and if you're prepared to fail, then you're prepared to win. And I've had some horrible failures in my career, and I've got a saying with anyone that fails or stuffs up in my business, in my career, I say, as long as you only do it once. Bit different in sport because you're competing all the time, but like when I say that, just don't make the same mistake twice. Learn from that mistake and get stronger. And I've had some shockers. When I went out on my own, when I left a mining contractor, Beament, I set my own business up with a couple of colleagues, and we had a cracking business, and our client ended up going belly up. And I was 33, and I left a really good job, and sort of made me first mill at 33, but I lost it at 34. And that taught me some really, really important business lessons. And and on my Northern Star journey at the earlier stages, when we had our first asset and we're flying and we wanted to grow the business, I learned a massive lesson. I come second on a set of gold mines that were coming out of a major here in Western Australia, and it was the first sale of gold mines at that journey in 2013. I missed out. I come second, and it was by, I think it was a $300 million transaction. I missed out by about 10 mil, and it was a massive failure, and that made me go, well, hang on, I've got to learn from this. And what I did is I changed out some management, some key management, brought in some high caliber people that I wanted to get on board, and they're still in that business now. And then we went on a spree, later on in late 13, 14 onwards, and you learn those lessons. There's a lot of deals that never saw light of day that again were failures, but we learned from those lessons of how to do things, how to construct things better, and we will constantly, like I said, we never celebrated our success, to be honest. Like, I look back in 12 years of buying a mine every year and success after success and creating a lot of wealth and a great business. We actually never celebrated that success. But one thing we did do is we actually analysed our failures all the way along, and we spent way more time on the failures than the wins. And I think that's super important, whether it's sport or business, is unless you learn, everyone can fly high in the good times, but it's how you constantly look at your bad parts, and you fix your bad parts, you'll win a gold medal every day of the week.
It's interesting you say that, Bill. I know when I was playing sport, we would, prepare, perform, and then review. And I noticed when I came out that not a lot of people in business actually review where they've gone wrong. They don't take the time to take a breath. And it's of no surprise to me to hear you say that you guys, reviewed where you went wrong, really stringently every time it didn't work out, because it's the same in sport, right? If you don't have a good performance, you've got to work out why it's heading that way. And I, as I said, it doesn't make me surprised to hear that you guys spent so much time making sure that the next time you got that opportunity, you were ready to take it. So not many people in business say that. That's one thing for sure.
Yeah, well, we sort of had an internal motto with our business as well, because we're operating 24/7, 365 days a year, and look, I'm an optimist. That's who I am, and I'm I'm a risk taker, yada yada. And my 2 IC SKUs still in there was the executor and very conservative. Everyone would love to tell me the good news all the time. They'd love to run in my office and tell me, great exploration success or production success or whatever. But one thing that Stu did really well, and we did internally, was we put this motto in. That's great. Everyone wants to hear the good news, but escalate bad news faster. And we, that's been around a long time. That organisation that's great. But because if you escalate bad news faster, then you can like it. The bubble starts as a small bubble down underground. It only gets bigger when it comes to the surface. So if you can pop that bubble earlier, then you got a chance to continue your performance and get better and maintain that momentum.
Yeah.
Bill, doing a bit of background leading into this, having a conversation with Darren Stralo was one of the big points that he made, was that a lot of people wrongly assume that you walk through raindrops in West Perth, and the converse is true. It's learning from failure. It's a lot of hard graft, and there's a long journey there that ultimately has set you up for success. And I guess that might really segue nicely into the whole theme of and crux of this discussion was around deciding to win. And I'll let Bo ask Jean exactly that in the right language as only an Olympian can in terms of that race. But Bill, if I start with you, I think perhaps it's worth asking the question around that initial Paulson's transaction. That I understood that at that time the business was a $2 million market cap. Acquiring a mine worth 40, which is in terms of a ratio is just astronomical in today's parlance. With thousands of dollars in the bank, deciding to win. Failure wasn't an option. Can you take us through that mindset and when you made a decision that we're going to win this?
Well, probably when they reneged on the $27 million acquisition price and wouldn't talk to us, and I literally just jumped on a plane and flew to Brisbane and just camped at the coffee. I caught the red eye, and I've never done the red eye again. I hate the red eye. And back then it was obviously all economy as well. But I just rocked up to their coffee shop at 6 a.m. The office opened at 8:30, and I just kept ringing the CEO, and he said, unless you withdraw your litigation, I won't meet you. And I said, well, why not? And I just sat there and kept ringing him, and eventually at lunchtime he said, come up, and we cut a new deal for 40 mil and announced it that night on the TSX and the next morning on the ASX, and the rest is history. But it was sort of, in business you can take if someone does something wrong against you, you can take the litigious path and go like that. But then you can take the commercial route, which has been practical route, and that's what we did, because we had nothing if we didn't do that deal. We would have got a litigation and end up with some money, but we wouldn't have had the start of a business. So I just, when you see those opportunities and they're right, and they're right in your heart and your brain, you just got to grab it. And they come up every day of the week in business. And most of the assets I bought over the journey weren't for sale. I created those opportunities, by actually cold emailing business development managers of majors saying, I like these assets, would you let us have a look at it? And it got easier as the company got bigger. I didn't have to I had to kick the door down a couple of times, but or put in unsolicited offers, in writing and all that sort of stuff. I've done that year in, year out on different assets, or some of the last assets I bought, I actually started the process because I was so persistent over 3 or 4 years. They just had enough and said, okay, let's run a process. Invite 5 or 10 companies to look at it, and the rest is history. But it's just about spotting an opportunity and saying that fits into my business plan. And you've got to stay disciplined. It's like anything in life. Our business model that we created, or I created back in 2009, 2010, that business model hasn't changed in Northern Star. We did not change it. We stuck to that discipline all the way through and never deviated from it. If it didn't fit into that, we weren't there. And I just think, having that discipline, knowing the opportunity, and being able to execute, that's the other part. There's one thing about spotting an opportunity, but how do you execute it as well? And I think, I guess that where the bit of white line fever comes is, I used to love the execution.
Yeah, John, we asked this a little earlier as well, and you gave us some insight into your challenges leading up to that final race, because that's ultimately why you're here, is that it's not just the winning of the gold medal, because there are crews that go into various Olympic Games and they are predicted to win and they get it done and they do win. And certainly, our sport, whether it's rowing and kayaking, the best crews typically come away with the result, don't they? Yeah, but for some reason, you guys, you went into that race, and would you have thought that there are a lot of people that thought that you would get the job done that day?
No, definitely not. So the German crew was undefeated between Rio and Tokyo. So I know they'd lost one race at one World Cup. So they were pretty much undefeated and by far the favourites. And myself and Tommy, we hadn't even raced internationally yet because of COVID. So absolutely, nobody thought we were gonna even touch the podium, let alone maybe even a top 5 result. It was just no one really knew who we were. We're just these young Aussies that wanted to come there and race really hard. So And I think Tom and I, like I think we're a little bit different in the sense we're a little bit more laid back, a little bit more calm than the rest of the crews. Like we could really sense that amongst those older crews that they were carrying a lot of pressure. They were really nervous, and obviously with the games extended one more year, a lot of guys this was going to be their last Olympics before they moved on to different things. And it was definitely that we just felt that energy in the air, really, that there was this tension among these guys, that they were feeling the pressure probably more than what we were. And I think
John,
yes,
on that note, like I'm interested at the start of those races. Is there any sort of smack talk, or the other crews trying to psych each other out, or is it sort of all business and get to the start line?
no, it's actually really weird because we know, like we're actually friends, we know a lot of the other athletes, but before racing, you'll walk past someone and like me and Tom will be like, hello, or, try to greet them, how are you going? And they'll kind of just bow their heads the other way and walk on because they want to focus on their race or whatever. So there's that kind of like tension or between the athletes, I suppose. Me and Tom aren't really like that. We want to say hello and greet you. Other guys are not. So absolutely, there's a little bit of tension. But once racing is done, we kind of have we shake hands, have a beer, and have a good time. But no, there's no smack talk. It's just
Well, did
lovely.
you chat to them afterwards? Like we often would talk to some of the guys we raced against. I mean, some of the guys I raced have been some of my really good mates ever since, and you sort of get the backstory, right? You get the insight into, wow, okay, well, I was expecting this or I was expecting that, and you get the hindsight story. And did you have a chat to any of those guys afterwards? Were they shocked? Were you shocked? What was the feel?
Definitely, because the guy that sits in the front of the German crew, when I was like 10, 11 years old, he was my screensaver on my phone. So he was actually a guy that I used to look up to.
Did you let him know that?
Of course, I did. We had a press conference afterwards, and I told him there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, wow, that's awesome." So it was pretty cool lining up next to him and be like, "Wow, this guy was on the screensaver on my phone just like 8 years ago." But I got to speak to him, and something I noticed in the race was that the Germans always kicked from 250, and during the final they kicked from 600, and then they kicked again with 250 to go, and I asked them about that. I was like, why'd you do that? We know you guys always kick at 250. Why do you guys kick at 600? Because we'd raced them in the heat the day before, and they couldn't come past us in that last 250. And he said that they tried to throw us off and try break us early in the race. So that come that last 250, we wouldn't be much of a challenge for them. And it's really funny. It was really funny hearing that, because I remember hearing a lift from them at the 600-meter mark, and I thought, jeepers, this is really far to be kicking from. Like they must be doing something pretty special here. And me and Tom just kind of held tight. And something we did differently was we always kick at 200, and I kicked at 250, and we don't have a call or anything. And Tom must have just known that if we wanted to win this thing, that we're going to have to go a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So it was this weird type of just both knowing that, okay, 250 is going to be the mark if we want to actually hold the Germans off. So it was quite cool to have a conversation with Max, who's the guy that I used to look up to, and him saying he tried to break us at the 600-meter mark. And then chatting to Tommy afterwards, and we like looked at each other he was like, you went to 250, and I was like, I know. How'd you know we were going? He was like, I don't know, I just knew.
Yeah.
So it was just, I don't know, it was a really cool moment, and to chat to like my role model and know that he tried to break us or try to get the better of us, and we could actually hold on and defend him was so special. Such a privilege to race legends of the sport, and yeah, it was cool that we could get one over him.
Well, it's the other part to that too, is that it's almost like great teams develop a sixth sense for each other, right? And you've done so much together, and you've got this inherent understanding of each other. Is that if we can try to create that, even at a much lower level? I mean, you're talking about Olympic gold medal standard. Even if we can create that at a lower level, we're going to have some pretty exceptional team performance, right?
Definitely. And I think like if you talk about mindset in that moment, like once you get a taste or a real taste that, okay, now you're really in this for the medals. And I think at that part of the race, we understood that we're highly likely going to get a medal. It's just going to be what color.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we both kind of thought like that. And it's like you say, you want to get people that thinks in similar ways, have similar goals, similar mindsets, values, etc. And I think that's why we both went at 250. Like, we wanted it really bad, and we wanted to put ourselves in the best position to maybe try and win the gold medal. And luckily enough, we came together and we could do that. And I think absolutely, I don't see why it can't happen in a team environment, in a team sport, a bigger team sport. Obviously, it doesn't happen all the time. You're probably going to fail a couple of times before you get that right. I know we did in training heaps. So yeah, I definitely think it can be transferred into other sports as well, and other teams outside of sport, for sure.
Yeah.
And Bill, in terms of that, I guess, continuing to learn and growth mindset, one of the final things we really wanted to touch on today was around, I think I've spoken to you before, you said you estimate you've visited more than 150 mines globally over your career now, and taken just about something from every one of them back to your business. So you're always in that growth mindset, and there's something you can be learning always along the journey. Can you give us an insight into that, and then also, I guess, what that looks like into Develop Global now and the journey that you're embarking on now?
Yeah, look, I think it's like everything in life. If you the day you stop learning, my dad used to say, the day you stop your learning is either two things: move jobs or you die. And I just think that's so important in business and work. And I say this to a lot of young kids mentoring, is, like, if you're not learning something in your career, or you feel like you're stagnant, well, change jobs, or you don't have to change companies. You just have to, might go to a different mine site to learn some different, or change the role or whatever. You can find that balance, but you have to keep learning in life. Otherwise, people will overtake you pretty quickly. And like I said earlier on, is I had to evolve 3 times in my previous employer. Otherwise, the board would have been forced to bring someone in. And I used to say to my executives, if you don't grow with us, well, you're either going to get pushed aside or made redundant. As simple as that. And that's no different in sport. If you're not evolving and not playing your game, you won't get picked the next week. So for me, that's important. And yeah, you emphasise. Like I say, I've never been the smartest person in the room, but I don't make the same mistake twice. And hence, when you go in business and you have a look and you see something, it doesn't matter if it's the worst run business or the worst workforce you ever come across, there is elements in here that they're doing well and you can learn from. And I've always taken those elements and gone, okay, they've done this really well, this mine site. Like, I saw some stuff in some South African mines that were just, the mines were shit. Like, you'd never want to work in them. But there was some things they were doing really cool. I'm like, we can learn from that back here, and taking those elements, and in business, you piece all that together and you end up with a very, very good business model. And that's what I've done. And even my new model now and Develop, I've spent my whole career to get to the business model I'm about to execute now. And I see a niche in the industry, and it's also seeing niches and where you can create an opportunity. Like, there's plenty of car companies up there. You just want to choose your brand. But if you see a niche where you can create something special, like a Tesla or something like that, and have that vision, that's what I see in the mining. So I see a niche of what I can create with my business. This decarbonisation thematic it's real. It's all mainstream now. We have to lower our carbon intensity. We have to lower our footprint on this earth. We have to do a lot of things. We've got to be much more efficient with mining of resources, and we've got to change our electrification mix. And copper, nickel, and zinc, and silver, and lithium, and rare earths are super important for that. So I spotted that thematic a while ago, and hence I'm going into that metal space now. And also on my mining services side is I want to specialise in my DNA, which is underground, because that is the way of the future. That's much lower footprint, much lower carbon intensity per metal use, and and you need high performing talent to do that. And so I will get into that mining specialist underground mining services, which is taking shape now. So just spotting those opportunities, those thematics is the thing, and executing on it. So but you just taking all those learnings, like you mentioned before, and you just fine tune that business model. And I think my business model, no one is doing globally. And there's not many people that could actually. They don't have the full skill set of mine ownership and all the way to running blue collar workers and mobile fleet and fixed plant. So for me, it's exciting times, and I'm sure we're going to go and build a multi-billion-dollar business again, and we'll probably do it a lot quicker and a lot faster and a lot easier. Probably a little bit more fun along the way as well.
Yep. It's a DNA thing, that underground place, isn't it, Bill? And I know, from previous journeys that you've been on where, you've sort of dined out in a lot of ways off buying off of majors and then applying that really nimble dynamism that comes with that underground DNA. And it's a unique position that you've either got it or you don't, I suspect.
Oh, look, the underground DNA it's based on high performing talent, high performing blue collar worker talent in particular. The jumbo operators are the upper echelons. They're the pinnacle of they're the equivalent of the strikers in the soccer team or whatever. They are the highest paid people. They're high performing talent. They're like sports stars. And being able to the difference in underground productivity between a bad operator and a good operator is in the order of 500%. Performance delta. In open pit mining, you don't get that. The difference in performance might be 40 to 50% between a bad operator and a good operator. So underground is hugely, differential in productivity and performance. So I love that. That's like a sporting culture to me. And if you can, get those high quality, high performing talent to work for you, which I've done my whole career, they're the ones that make you look good, and they're the ones that kick goal after goal and win medals. So for me, taking those people and creating a culture with them, and I don't want to be the world's biggest underground mining company or anything like that. I see a niche of what size. You've got to understand what size your business is. Like, people stuff that up all the time. There's a certain size business where you've got to put in X, Y, Z structure-wise, and if you grow again, you've got to put in infrastructure. There's a certain size where you can make your best returns and not have a heart attack. I think I've worked that out, or have a marriage breakdown and divorce, and I've been through that. So you learn those lessons in life, and you can find the I guess the ideal size. So for me, super excited about starting. I've got a blank canvas, and I'm employee number 6 this time. I was employee number 1 last time, but I'm sure we'll build this into a huge business over the next 3 to 5 years.
And in terms of getting better, I think I'm still pretty young, so I think I can get stronger, I can get fitter, I can be more efficient, I can be better technically. I think there's a whole bunch of areas where I can be better in, and like Bill has said, as soon as you stop improving or learning or just bettering yourself overall is when I think I'll probably stop. As soon as I think I've got to the best of my ability, that'll probably be when I throw in the towel. But for now, I'm just looking forward to more racing. I'm looking forward to the challenges that lie ahead that Paris will present, and trying to have a good race there. So I've only got back at training last week, and just taking the first steps towards building the journey towards Paris, which is exciting.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I hear when both yourself and Bill are talking is that there is still a massive level of excitement around doing it all again. And, it's not an easy path that either of you choose to back it up and go through that process. And my coach, he's an 8-time Olympic coach, Olympic gold medal coach. He used to talk about that all the time, is that a lot of athletes, and I guess sometimes business people too, get excited about what the end result will look like and forget about all of the hurdles and the challenges and the resilience required along the way. But if you can do it, if you can keep that level of passion, then it's not just about the outcome, right? There is a sense of enjoyment and excitement with the day-to-day operation of building something and growing.
Yeah, look, absolutely, Bo. I think you mentioned earlier on, Grant, was walking through raindrops in West Perth. Like, it's my career hasn't been that far from that. But people ask you a question why you've done so well, and it's just, I just love what I do. It's not a money thing. I just love mining. From the day I got introduced to it when I was 13 at a careers expo, I just fell in love with it and wanted to be a mining engineer, and the rest is history. And I still, I get my kick out of going out to the mine sites and kicking rocks and talking to people and getting underground and smelling the rock and the bloody diesel fumes and explosive fumes. There's nothing better than that, and seeing the environment change every day, because mining changes every day. So for me, I just like if you love something and you're passionate about it, you'll always be successful. And that's what I say to people: if you don't love your job and you're not passionate about it, change careers. Go and find what you need to find, and you'll be successful. So that's from my side. I always love what I do, and I'll love it until the day I die. I don't plan to retire.
Brilliant. Well, I think to wrap this up, Sharpie, I was just going to go around the grounds and from the four of you, just take one piece of advice you would give to someone trying to climb to the pinnacle of their chosen sport, their chosen profession, and particularly something maybe that you've taken from sport that you've applied to business. Because I know, Jean, you're in wealth creation these days outside of kayaking. So Sharpie, what's that one thing from sport for someone aspiring to climb right to the pinnacle?
Oh, look, I think from my side of things, it's a really simple mantra, and it's held me instead in sport, personal life, and in business. And I think we've heard it reflected through today, and it's a catchphrase, I guess, for a reason, because it's true. But when you get knocked down, you got to get up and go again. And that's the simplest way to say it, because nothing always goes right. And you've heard from these two, legends in their own fields, how they go about it. And it's not about the wins, it's about the failures and how you recover from that. So, it's something I've always looked at.
Yep. Bo?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. And look, there's not just going to be one thing, right? But we talk about the fact that equipment doesn't win championships, people do. And I mean, you got to love who you got to work with. And I mean, I go on about Talisman, right? It's great people. And ultimately, that's why we're doing what we're doing. And so when you can go to work with great people and get to have these opportunities, this is work, right? We're actually working at the moment, but who would know?
Yeah, great point. John, what about you, mate? What's that one thing from sport that you're applying on a day-to-day basis to to climb Everest in a different vocation?
I think for me it would be worry more about winning than worry about losing. Let success and what that brings keep you up at night. Don't let the failures worry you, and don't lose sleep over that. That would be my short kind of one line, I guess.
Yeah, brilliant. And Bill, I know you used to play rugby in amongst pulling beers at a pub near Cal. So what have you taken?
I've actually reference checked that, mate. He was an ordinary footy player. He was a good kicker, though, he tells me.
Hey, state country rugby, mate.
Fair enough.
State country. Look, for me, it's just persistence, and it's no different to sport. If you don't rock up to training each day, and you're not ready to get on the game day and step over that white line, or rock up to work every day, then you'll never get the opportunity to play and never get the opportunity to succeed. So if you're persistent, you'll get there every day of the week.
Right. Well, I think that's a great spot to pull up today on our inaugural chat as Talisman Talks. So, what a privilege it's been to host, Jean and Bill. And so, on behalf of Bo and Sharpie and myself, thank you very much for spending the time and giving us those incredible insights, that candid, behind-the-scenes discussion that is very open and transparent. And I'm sure a lot of people will take a hell of a lot out of it, because I certainly did. So, thank you very much.
Oh, thanks guys. Good to meet you, Bo.
Good on you guys.
Yep, you too. Well
Thanks
done.
very much.
I watched that race. I think I cried at the end.
Not as much as the Germans did, mate.
Yeah. They kicked too early. See you, everyone. Thanks.
Okay, thanks guys. See ya.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Stuff, guys.
Bye.